Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared Podcast. I'm your host, Curtis, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Gaia Gorda and Aaliyah. And we are here today talking with Mr. Robert Syslo Jr. of Syslo Ventures. And we're going to be talking to him about all things marketing, sales, promotion-related, video-related, all sorts of awesome stuff. So to begin, we're going to hand it off to Aaliyah, who is going to lead the questions.
Hi, Robert. How are you doing tonight?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I love this podcast. You guys, it's just so different. You get to be more artistic, which is good.
Thank you. Why don't we start off by telling the listeners, maybe introducing yourself to our listeners who, if they don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about what you do in the music world or what could be applied to the music world.
Yeah. So I run a full service creative agency. We do websites, marketing, social media marketing, brand development, brand building. We actually did a music video not too long ago, which was pretty cool down here in Miami. So that was fun. But we help really anybody who's looking to, gain more awareness, traction, power, authority on the internet, do that through all the social media that's out there. So we'll create the content. We'll talk to everybody. We'll create ads. We'll do everything we have to do to get them out there. So we have a very strategic plan with that. And we got a bunch of training stuff too. Like we have a bunch of training courses on marketing, graphic design, video editing, creativity, which is a new one that I just came out with, which is pretty wild. Like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody teach creativity. So that's what I'm teaching there. But we have a lot of stuff that we offer for people.
The creativity course, that's very interesting. Yeah, I don't think I've seen anybody teach that. It's kind of one of those things you kind of assume you either have it or you don't. What's your take on that?
I used to think that people would say that about sales too, but I learned sales and I was creative. So, I think I think if you have the ability to be open to it and to try to want to perceive it or have an ambition to want to understand it, I think you can do it. It just takes a little bit of training like anything else. And once you understand it, you can get, and people are creative already. They just don't equate it to being creative. You know what I mean? So it's like, the way that they do their day is, in our mind might be creative, but to them, maybe not. But yeah, I think you can learn it. I think you can do it if you desire to do it, for sure.
Cool. I'm definitely going to look into that. I'm on your website right now, so I want to look into your training courses and stuff. It sounds so interesting.
Go to the training tab up there. You'll see them all. They're all there.
I see them. So why don't we move on to talking about this social media outage that happened and how
the great blackout of 2021.
Yeah. How do you think, what do you think that bands and companies can learn from this?
Well, I'll tell you what happened. I noticed it like everything was fine. And then around, I would say 11 o'clock in the morning, I noticed that I couldn't do anything on Facebook. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's just, it's just doing a quick thing. And so I moved on to call, because usually I'm promoting like nonstop all day. Like I'm posting stories or I'm doing something somewhere or checking some campaign somewhere. So I noticed that it wasn't quite working. And of course I did what every other person did on earth and went over to Twitter and was like, is Facebook down? And it was down. Instagram was also down. So I thought it was going to be like a quick thing where it was going to be like 30, 40 minutes and they'll get their stuff sorted out. Hour went by, 2 hours went by, 3 hours went by. I think it was like around 7 o'clock at night is when it actually came back, East Coast time, maybe even 8 o'clock. And I remember being like, okay, this is really weird. So before that happened though, I let all my clients know. I said, hey, look, Facebook and Instagram are down. We're not running any of your ads right now because we don't have access to it. It's totally non-existent. And I said, if it's not up by tomorrow, end of business day, we're going to move you all to YouTube and Google. We're just going to take all your campaigns. We're going to go over there and we're going to have a backup plan. I wasn't going to communicate that, but then I was like, I think I should communicate that just to let them know that something, should something not shift, we have a backup plan. So what could people learn from that? I love Facebook. I love Instagram. It's a great platform for connections, It's a great platform to promote and brand yourself and get organic traffic and do lead generation and all of that stuff. But, people will say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I certainly don't. I use every other platform I can get my hands on, minus a couple that I've tried. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. But realistically, even if they were to go down, some other platform would come back, and all you would really have to do is understand the mechanics of how to use it. And then promotion and the rules of marketing, which is what we do, doesn't really change. It's just what's the device that's going to get you to do that? What's the vehicle that we're going to get you through with? So, the big lesson was not freak out. I didn't freak out. I don't really use social media for like perusal purposes where I'm like, I need this for validation or survival. I use it to make money. You know what I mean? So when it went down, I always have backup plans. So it's just have a plan B, like make sure you are extending yourself as often as you can, in as many diversified buckets as you can, and have a plan B. It's just the smart thing to do.
I want to follow something up there really, really quickly, Robert. So out of curiosity, what are the platforms that you said that you didn't find work for you? Just before I ask the question.
Clubhouse is one.
Okay.
And then I think one of the older streaming ones that I just didn't get into, but Clubhouse was probably the most recent one that I'm just like, I can't make sense of it. I think it's good. When I was on there, the thing that confused me a little bit was, first of all, who has like 3 or 4 hours to just sit and talk that long? Number one. Yeah. If I've got 3 or 4 hours to sit and talk, I'm obviously not doing sales calls or servicing clients or bringing in new business. I'm talking about concepts, which I think is great. And I think if you want to schedule it and it's like a one-time thing, but like that was the first thing. And the second thing that confused me about it was I have no way to validate this information that's being spoken to me. I have no way to validate who's telling me this information, what kind of background these people have. And so I'm very cautious about information. I think it's great that people want to help, but sometimes that help can cause problems and it's the wrong data. So those were the two things from a time perspective and just what was being discussed that I was a little like, well, I don't know about this one. So, I stopped using it. I was like, I'm going back.
So, Aaliyah, are you okay if I ask one more follow-up? Cool. Oh, Gaia's got a question. I'll let her go first.
Yeah, I want to know the opposite. What is the platform that you like the most?
Wow, that's a good question. Right now, YouTube is becoming my favorite. It really is becoming my favorite. I still use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn pretty religiously, but YouTube for me is where I'm really getting excited because it's really starting to take off from an organic standpoint. And I like that. And it's just this massive index of content. And I like that you can really see who's putting effort into their brand. And like you can tell right away who's really being truthful on that front because they have to be able to sustain information and talk about it. So I would say right now, I'm kind of leaning towards YouTube as my favorite. Probably second would be Instagram, third would be Facebook, and fourth would be LinkedIn. Fifth would be Twitter.
Interesting. Very interesting. I want to touch back on something unless Gaia had more of a follow-up on that. No. So you're talking about how you got to look for where you get your information from. So what would be the Robert Syslo test that they can tell people on how to know who is fake and who is not fake, who's legit and who's not legit? Out of curiosity.
I think the first thing that I would do is that when I ask a question, I need to know that you can answer it. And if you can answer it with like no hesitation on it and actually give me an answer, that's pretty good. Cool. Second would be just like, what's your career? Like, what have you been doing? Where did you start? Where did you come from? How did you expand from that point? You don't need, I'm not so concerned about the amount of followers you have because anybody can buy followers today. Yep. And you can buy your blue check mark. Yep. And I've had people approach me. They're like, we'll get you a blue check mark. I'm like, nope, I'm going to do it legally. We're going to do it ethically. I want to know that I didn't buy it to prove a point. Like there's just like some people will like, I was listening to, I think Gary Vee said it. He was like, yeah, well, the blue checkpoint mark like inspires people to feel really good. And like, that's real. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but people can buy it today. And that to me is more moving towards fraudulent. And if you're going to do fraudulent things for attention like that, what else are you going to do in your business that's fraudulent? You know what I mean? You're just setting the wrong standard. So do I think it's valuable if you can get it? For sure, but I wouldn't buy it. I would try to do it as authentically as I can, because it's not real. It's just not real, you know?
Cool.
I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but
well, let's get back, because I'm not sure if you answered the whole question here. So let's see if you did. So what would be the actual, other than, so then those, you mentioned like two things on how you tell it's if someone.
Oh yeah.
I want to get the whole thing.
Yeah. So the second one is just, where'd you come from? I'm not interested in how many followers you have. I'm just interested in where'd you come from? Like, what are you doing every day? Cool. I want to know that. And then I don't even need to know, like, I don't care about how much money you make, because there are really good companies and entrepreneurs and businesses out there that are really at the beginning or in the second step of expansion, and they have a great product, right? I just want to know if it works. So the test really just comes down to, how are you doing it? How consistent are you doing it? What are clients saying about it? And that's really where I get my test from. Really, those three are like the pre-qualifiers. And then I basically move from there.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second here and get your opinion on this, because I know that there's like a common trend, and I think it came from Napoleon Hill, if I'm not mistaken, where it's like, the thing is, like, you only learn it by teaching. So it would, like, but to me, I think that's fake. And I want to hear your opinion on that.
I mean, you could learn it by teaching yourself, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think, like, I'll give you an example. There's people out there right now that profess themselves to be business coaches, profess themselves to be, marketers, and they're getting people to pay the money somehow, and they're getting paid, but they've never run a sales team. They've never made more than $100,000 a month or $20,000 a month. They just haven't done what they're teaching. And again, that kind of goes back to fraudulence for me. Like, it's hard for me to swallow that, if I was doing it, because I know eventually it's going to catch up with me. It's like, you're doing something you shouldn't be doing. And we live in a social media world today. I was just talking to my girl about this, and I saw this person do this post on LinkedIn, and the post said, this is a marketer, by the way, the post, and he had like a lot of engagement on that post. It said, I would rather you spend 100 hours researching your audience before making 100 pieces of content and distributing it. And this guy had a lot of engagement on that. And I swear to God, I wanted to pick my iMac up back there and throw it off the balcony, because I was just like, this data is incorrect. First of all, if it takes you 100 hours to understand and analyze your audience, you're doing something wrong. Secondly, if you are going to go do something for 100 hours, at least make sure it's income producing, because while this guy's doing all this research for 100 hours, I'm making sales calls, I'm making content, I'm talking to people, adjusting my content strategy, reaching out to more individuals, helping them, I'm making money. Yeah. But again, it's just like, there's a lot of inverted communication. It sounds good, feels good. It's like, oh, wow, that feels so good what they just said. I feel so much better about my life today. But it ain't going to make anybody money. And it's really not helpful. I used to, and good, look, we want good-hearted things from time to time, but also need truth. Like, what's going to work right now?
Totally. 100%. Okay, Ali, I'll let you take back the convo.
Robert, you come from a background of graphic design, correct?
I actually come from a background of video production. That was just kind of like weaved into that as an evolution. Gotcha. Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to get your opinion on how graphic design connects with branding and or video, but this whole idea of branding, what it is, and how bands can kind of define their brand.
Yeah, I mean, as a band, you've got a certain feeling, you've got a certain thing that you stand for, you have a certain emotion that you're evoking in your music. You have a look, like when you guys get on stage and you sing, sometimes you're like really aggressive in some of those get-ups you got. Sometimes people are super conservative, and all that's really part of it's part of the look. It's part of the identity, right? So I'm really big on establishing identity. And I was, for me, the design really should communicate the raw energy that you have behind whatever it is that you're singing about or what it is that you represent. or what it is that you stand for. Like my branding is very much like a lot of color, a lot of like really kind of retro green 80s stuff. It's very bright, you know what I mean? And that's my energy. It's just like, okay, I got a lot of energy. I got a lot of stuff that I'm putting out there. I'm an artist, I'm colorful. I love color. I just ordered a brand new sign. They sent me a mock-up of it in white. And I said, do you have it in hot pink? I want it in hot pink and it's going to go on my wall. And it's like, what's the guy doing with a hot pink thing? I'm like, I like hot pink. I think it's cool. Anyway, so it's just like, you know, what is that energy you're trying to communicate? And it should communicate for you. So that design is everything, because they need to look at it and get what you're about very, very quickly. Like you need to look at it and say, oh, I get what this stands for. And it should communicate.
Do you have any tips for bands to find those graphic elements that will pair with their vibe? Like, or should they just hire somebody that's an expert?
Well, I mean, I'm one for having somebody be involved in what that element is going to be. You know what I mean? If you can do it, I would say you should take the time to really learn how to collect assets and what that looks like. Look at what other people are doing and take pieces from that. That's really how I learned, is I would just look at something and I'd say, okay, how did they make that? And then I would try to recreate it. And then I would go put my own spin on it. So yeah, I mean, you could work with a great team. Like we do graphic design all the time for people and we help them identify what that look is going to be. But I definitely think that if you're building a band along that line, you know, you should have some involvement in that. And where do you begin? Well, usually I connect design with a story. I connect design with colors. I connect design with what am I going to feel when I look at it? Like, should I be aggressive? Should I be like, wow, this is going to be crazy? Like, do I want to, like, who am I trying to talk to? And I try to blend all that together. And if you don't understand just those preliminary concepts, then you need to, I would probably outsource it to somebody. But if you can start to play with those things, that's really where I'd begin.
I want to ask a quick question that's off graphic design, unless Aaliyah's got more on that.
Not in particular. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Just it popped up into my mind right here. So how important do you, just in terms of art, graphics, that type of thing, do you think it is in terms of making it a better presentation for the musician? Just out of curiosity.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Like,
well, what I mean is like how close do you think the artistic vision should be, like art and graphics and stuff should be with the music, or do you feel like it could be separated?
To the music or to the band? Yeah. I would say get it as close as you can. I would try to get it as close as you can to the real experience of what it is that it's going to be, and try to make it look as professional as you can, because it just shows that you put a lot of care into what you're doing. You know, you're not really trying to slap this together real quick. It's, oh, I get these guys are passionate about what they do. I could tell it in all their design work. I can tell it when I look at something, and it just communicates a better experience for the person on the other side of that.
Fair enough. I think that was all I had for my follow-up, Aaliyah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that your graphics can help build trust in people, you know, even if they haven't. People can listen to your music and tell whether it's authentic or not. People can look at your graphics and tell whether it's authentic or not, or if it connects to the music at all. And I think that, I mean, I don't know. I think it's important to have that connection to build the trust aspect of the brand.
Totally. And you'll get that feeling the second you look at it. Like, you'll know, you'll be like, or, oh, wow, what's this? You know, like, I'm always trying to create stuff that just stops people to look at it. I don't care if they keep looking at it. I just want them to stop and notice it. And then I'll do the magic from there. But really the goal should be, can I get you to stop, observe, take a look at this and stay with it? Or come back to be like, what was that? Like, what was that? You know, like you want to put all as many little details as you can into it, so that people turn around and they keep coming back and they're like, wow, that's really interesting. You want them to be a part of that journey and that experience. And you create kind of like a game for them to try to discover all the things that you put in there, you know?
Totally. I want to move on to the email conversation we wanted to have, Aaliyah. Are you okay with that now?
I wanted to ask about the music video, and we can do that in whichever order you like.
Okay, well, ask about the music video then, I guess, first.
Okay. You said that you just did a music video recently.
I did, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what that process was like? And well, yeah, just start with that.
So it was for a good friend of mine, and he's kind of got this like jazz, reggae, new wave kind of style. I don't know how all three of those go together, but they do. And it's called Sail Away, and he wanted to do a video here in Miami, and so we ended up getting, I wouldn't say like a massive yacht, but we got a decent sized yacht that we shot on, and we rented this car. I rented a buddy's McLaren for the shoot because my Aston Martin was getting its brakes fixed. But anyway, so the process is he sent me the song first, and then he sent me the lyrics to it. And I think I listened to the song probably about 50 or 60 times. Now, I've always started with music in every single one of my videos I've ever made. Like, I've always started with music. I don't start with anything else. Because for me, that really sets the tone of what I'm trying to communicate. Like, I'm always listening for new sounds. I'm listening for new music. All genres you can think of, I listen to it all because I never know when I need to use it at some point. So, it was this style. It was something a little bit outside of where I normally go, but I was like, okay, I'm really getting what the story is here and what the vibe is about. So I just went through pictures first. Like, it just was, okay, what's going to happen here? What should I shoot here? What's this going to look like here? Okay, what's going to happen at this part? And I haven't even talked to him yet about how we're going to do this. I'm just working it out in my mind. And that's usually how I do it. I already see basically the completed video or project before it's even put together. Like I just spent 3 days in Nashville and Phoenix, and we shot a reality show there. And I already know what needs to happen at this point. But with the music video, it was the same thing. It was like, okay, there's going to be moments of abstract. There's going to be moments of a storytelling. There's going to be moments of people. There's going to be moments of like, where are we at, establishing shots and all that stuff. And so we basically went out it took 2 days to shoot, and we had the song there that we would play. And he would kind of mouth over the words and all that stuff and go through the whole deal. But I would get it from as many different angles as I could. I had a second camera on that with me, and we were able to put together this really amazing story that really just came together. And I was very excited because that's what I really like to do. I like to do that kind of stuff. I like to do reality shows, documentaries, music videos. I like that because it's very creative. And it's not an ad per se. Like, I live, breathe, sleep advertisements all the time. So to be able to go do something that's that creative and really tell kind of an emotional story is a lot more fun because it's just out of the ordinary. It's you're moving into narrative storytelling with music. And so I wanted to match the power of the song to the visuals, and the visuals had to support what he was singing about. And we did a really good job. It really came out really, really sharp. It came out really nice, very, very, very emotional. We shot it all in 4K. And I would say probably 90% of that video was slow motion. Like, it was just a lot of slow motion, which was great. But yeah, so the process was just basically digesting where he was coming from and then going through how I was going to articulate what his vision was. So him and I were basically on the same wavelength. What he was wanting, I was producing. When he wrote the song, he had an idea. He saw the images as well. And I was able, through a few conversations, to be able to come back and really bring that vision to life for sure.
Who was it again that this was for, Robert?
His name is Donovan Darnell.
Okay.
You just Google him. Yeah. Donovan Darnell, Sail Away. Go to YouTube. You'll see the video. It's awesome.
Cool. Now, are we able to talk about the email now, Leah, or got more?
I got a little more on this topic, Curtis. You really want to get to the emails, but music videos are so important these days. So I really want to spend a little time on this topic because I won't name names, but we have seen some music videos that are not the best. They don't really communicate the message of the song or the band very well. And I just wanted to get your opinion on what you think bands should look out for when it comes to video production, what they should prioritize, how long they can expect such a project to take.
Yeah, well, from a project standpoint, if you work with me, you'll have it within about a week. We shot that in 2 days, and then they had the first edit within about 7 days. I think it was 7 or 8 days or something like that. So you want to work with somebody that can really start, getting things moving quickly. That would be number one. Number two is you really want to work with somebody that has a large dynamic range of creation. Okay, somebody who's moved through a lot of different types of styles, genres, that kind of a thing. Because believe it or not, the most beneficial thing that I have working for me is that I've touched so many different types of genres and styles that it's really easy for me to fluctuate between all of it. So my brand is like a combination of everything, which is pretty cool. So you want to work with somebody that isn't like kind of boxed in, like we only do this kind of video, we only do this kind of style, we only do this kind of band, we only do this kind of thing. You want somebody that's a lot more fluid and who's going to work with you. Then secondly on that, you want to work with somebody that, there's the artist, and the artist has his world, his viewpoints, what he's trying to communicate, or artists in the group. And then you have the production guy and their artistry. And you need to have this person over here who's willing to control both sides of that equation, but also be willing to be controlled by the other side, right? They need to be able to take, ideas and criticisms or concepts that they want to bring. And this guy needs to be able to tell them, well, that's not going to work because of this, but we could try to make it like that. And they go back and forth. So I was able to do that with this guy. And it was good because it made it a much more fluid process, and it created a product that represents him. It represents his brand. It represents the song. People like the song. So that's the kind of style that you want to work. Because anybody could say, well, we could pick up a fake camera and we can shoot this, and we can shoot that. We get a blah, 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 blah. But they got to have a certain range that you need to watch out for.
Yeah. So also, budget can be a concern, a lot for indie bands, especially starting out. For a simple starter video, in your opinion, if you're comfortable sharing this, what do you think a band's budget should be for a music video on the simpler end?
I don't know what I would charge for a starter video. I know what I charge for what we do. But it depends. It depends on complexities. It depends on what we're going to do. We need to get a sound stage. Do we need to get a studio? Is there going to be visual effects? Like, where are we going with it? If it's something simple, I mean, you could probably get somebody to do it for, you could go get a university student who wants to build up his portfolio. You don't even have to pay them if you don't want to, but I would pay them because it's a lot of work. I don't know, maybe like in like very, very basic bare bones, nothing crazy, like $1,000, maybe a little bit less. It's not going to be anything spectacular, but it'll be something. We usually start out at about 7,500 to about 15,000 plus, depending on what we're going to do with that. It just depends what you need, how many days, where do we need to go? Do I have to get other things connected to that? That's usually where we play. It can be more than that, but that's kind of a comfortable number.
That's good for a frame of reference for sure.
Yeah.
I have a question. What do you think is too much?
What do I think is too much?
Yeah, like what would be too much, like for someone to be paying for a video?
That's totally, yeah. I mean, that comes back to really what's going on with the video. Like what kind of camera are they using? How many people are they bringing to the shoot? How much equipment's being brought to the shoot? How much, like, are they doing crazy visual effects?
Fair.
I mean, some feature film movies right now, it's like $100,000 per second for a visual effects thing. Like it's super expensive. So, I mean, that's probably lowballing it, but I mean, it really depends on the concept, right? If you're looking for something with somebody just come do a camera, blah, 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 blah. If you're paying like anything above like $2,000 or $3,000 for that, you're probably overspending unless it's really good. Like, I don't know, but it's hard to really kind of gauge it. It comes down to what the project is, what's going to be done in the project, and what you want from the project and all that.
Now, okay, what is too low of a rate? Because there's the things where people will undercharge, and then people that are crap So
yeah, I would get worried if people like I charge a lot, you know, because I just have to charge a lot because we offer great services. But I mean, you know, it wouldn't make sense if I went out into the marketplace and I was like, I will give you a Robert Syslo 30-second, 60-second video ad for $400. That would be incorrect. That would be very incorrect. So for a music video, I mean, again, if somebody's coming down like below that, I would say it's probably too low. You're not going to get, you know, you're not going to get anything great out of that.
But again, it could always be that someone's doing it for experience. And if you know that, then that's,
yeah. And that's the other side of the coin. Like, are you willing to take that risk? Like, do you want to take that risk and let somebody experiment on you? Like, how willing are you to do that? You know, and unfortunately, I would do it. Like if somebody came up to me and they're like, Rob, I want to just follow you around for a day and do a documentary on you. I've never done this before. I've got some equipment. Like, sure, let's do it. I have a very different mentality about that kind of a thing. But yeah, I mean, it's up to you. What do you want to experience out of that?
But reversely, if someone came to you like that wanted to do a commercial for you, it'd be completely different.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I'm probably going to pay some money for that for sure.
Exactly. Cool. What else do we have on video?
Gaia has something.
Oh, Gaia.
I have a question. I'm alive. Well, do you think it would be better for someone that's starting to at least have videos, even if they're like not well produced or anything, or just having nothing that's like not produced would be better?
I mean, I would have it as soon as you can get it. Like, yeah, quality's great. You know, having 4K cinema red camera, having your Sonys all over the place. It's great. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. But, you know, iPhones shoot 4K now. Actually, the new iPhone has all the features of a high quality $2,000 lens in it, which is crazy that you can go back and adjust with, which I think is pretty wild. But yeah, I mean, I would be focused on getting it done first before I would worry about like, okay, how good does it actually look? If you can get both of those done at the same time, all the power to you. But that's not like a defining thing. You know, a band that's out there that's really showing what they're doing behind the scenes. It's really, you know, putting music videos together. You know, if you go back, I was watching this channel. It's called Corridor Digital. They do a bunch of visual effects. And they were telling their story about when they first started, like they showed their first projects that they did and they were terrible. But now they're like working on full length feature films like Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. So it's like, where does it start? You know, as long as it started, that's the key from a band standpoint. And that's really the key from really any marketing or promotional standpoint at all. As long as it started, did it begin?
Now, I want to talk about something super quickly that's not on the agenda, but it just popped into my mind here, which is you're talking about quality of the video. We're talking about the quality of the music, all that type of stuff. So now, one thing that a lot of bands will do is that they'll blow their entire budget on the quality of the music, and then they'll have nothing left over to promote the thing, and it basically just is a dud as a result, even though they just did like the best produced album. It's the best thing in the world, but there's no one there to hear it afterwards because they just drop it. Let's get your thoughts on that, Mr. Syslo.
So I guess familiarize me just a little bit. So what would they be spending their money on? Like the mixing,
like producer, all the rest of that type of stuff, image, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, from that standpoint, again, it's like, so you have to, this is where it gets interesting. So you have to kind of come out of the artist persona. Okay. Yes, you are awesome. Yes, you're creating the next Picasso. You're going to be the next Ozzy Osbourne. You're going to be the next whoever this is going to be. But at the same time, you have to look at it from a business angle. You have to look at it from a sales and marketing angle. And it's not going to be one that gets you the thing you're looking for. It's going to be a lot more than one to get you the thing that you're looking for. So, and eyeballs. So I would go a little less on, I mean, unless there's some really huge monetary or promotional value to spending that kind of money on that individual, I wouldn't do it.
Dude.
If you have the money, great. If you don't, I would be more inclined to be asking myself, okay, what's planned? Okay, we produce it, then what? You know, we're going to put this together. What now? You know, I had a situation kind of relative to the music industry where it's this high fidelity platform and stuff like that and all this. But anyway, it's a good story where it's like, okay, do we start marketing now, a year ago, or do I wait for when it's absolutely perfect to get it out into the marketplace? And ideally, the answer was we should have started a year ago. But again, this is where that artist thing comes in. And I was like this, where I was like, yeah, I mean, I make the best videos on earth. Like everybody's going to come to me. Yeah, everybody's going to want to see Robert. Everybody's going to come to me because I'm so good. And that's not really the case at all. Like I've never seen that happen. It's always more, I've produced hundreds of thousands of this and then boom, there it happened. Or I spent more money on my promotion and marketing and that's where it really happened for me. Mm-hmm. So that's how I view it.
Cool. I think that's all I got on that.
Cool. Yeah, one statement real quick is like, I know that some bands like to go with a producer who has a well-known name in their industry, but I'm not sure what the metrics are as far as does that translate to more sales for them? I'm not sure.
Doesn't.
So,
I mean, you probably get the name, but again, it's what happens after that point is really that's where I'm most interested. What happens beyond that is where
I'll give you guys a little example that I had not that long ago, just from my own experience with this, is a well-known producer was hired by an unknown band to produce their album, do the mixing, the whole 9 yards. And they dropped, I think they said it was like $50,000 on it. They had no budget for promotion afterwards or anything. So it just went out there and nothing happened. Nobody knew about it. And they only had like, I think 50 Facebook followers or something like that. So they basically blew $50,000 or something like that to get a great product, but nobody bought it. So that's what happens.
Yeah, like that's stupid.
It is stupid. Yeah, I mean, it was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen in my life. We have no budget for ads. We have no budget for PR. We have no budget for nothing.
Yeah, the important stuff that really, like, yes, the music matters. Yes, the production matters. But that second marketing piece is so critical.
So
probably even more so in this industry because it's so competitive. Everybody's like, I got the next big hit. I got the next big hit. I got the It's like, geez, like, okay. So the only way to outmaneuver that is to outspend that. That's it.
100%.
Get more traction on it. Get more eyeballs on it.
100%. What else we got, Aaliyah, on this?
No, I think that wraps this topic up pretty nicely.
Nice.
If you want to move to the email questions.
I'm ready. Can I ask the question?
Go for it.
Okay, cool. And then we're gonna have Gaia jumped in because she died momentarily there and probably wants to...
She's back though.
Welcome back.
Yeah. So anyway, Robert, let's talk for a minute about well, this is kind of like a two-part question. So I'm gonna kind of break it up into two different parts. So volume of promotion. Volume.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk. Can you talk for a bit about volume and how much is too much, just as a general thing, and then I want to move into email.
Well, I used to think that there was too much. I think there's too much too quick. I think is really the thing. I've been doing some experimentations recently on all the platforms, just kind of testing that theory out. Just to change, like they change all the time. So I'm like, oh, okay, let me just like supercharge it and do all this stuff really fast. And that didn't really work out too well. And then I went, okay, let me just really super back off and see what happens. And that didn't really work out well. Mm-hmm. So now I'm kind of moving into that. Okay, let's go be aggressive, but let's be a little more strategic about that. So, I mean, I think if you're active and you're showcasing and you're being involved on a daily basis, that's probably where you want to be. How much you do in that day, I mean, I don't think you want to overkill it, but I think there's a happy medium of that. I'm averaging probably about 60 to 80 pieces of content a day. Going back to that guy who had that post on LinkedIn, my God, 100 hours to do this. Whatever. Anyway, so, but I mean, I'm not going to do 100 like in an hour. Like it's going to be spread out throughout the day. Like I'll drop a little bit now, I'll drop a little bit in 2 hours, I'll drop a little bit in 3 hours, but I'm devoted to that. Like my muscle on promotion is really built up. So if you can do that, I mean, I think it's great, but I don't think you need to like gun it and kill everybody with it. I think it's too much. There's a point where it's like, okay, that's enough.
So you think it's the speed of different quantity of promo versus the total amount of promo?
Yeah, I think that's really where it is. I think if it's too much condensed together, it doesn't work out too well. I think if you've got a lot, you spread it out a little bit, I think you're playing a better game on that front. And then spending ad money on that, I think, just puts you in a better position to make it really go right.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Aaliyah, you want to move on to the next part about the email?
Sure. Context of this is, I would say I've subscribed to some email newsletters that have bombarded my inbox so much that I unsubscribed from them within 3 days. So, what are your thoughts on email volume? Like, how many emails should bands be sending a day?
Well, you have to look at, you have to ask the question, okay, why would they want an email? Number one, what does a band have an email for? Right? What does a band have an email for? Is it for updates? Is it for shows?
Yeah.
Is it for behind the scenes? What is it? If it's if it's for, hey, we're playing a show Friday, check it out. I think that's probably way too little to hit an email list with. I think if you're going to do this and you're like, hey, check out our behind the scenes mixing session, or, hey, we just got this new piece of equipment that just came in. We just got this new banging guitar. You got to check this thing out. Or we got this new synth that we're going to hook up. It's so retro. You got to check this out. Dude, check out this guy we got with a trumpet over here. I don't know how we're going to mix that with hardcore metal, but we're going to figure it out. Like stuff like that from a experiential standpoint, I think is really where your email list is going to go. How often? Yeah. I mean, again, what's the point? Are we trying to educate or are we trying to sell? If you're trying to sell, I think there's a limit. I used to be a part of the hit. I don't hit. I think it's once or twice a day. Twice is probably just pushing it a little too much. I would probably go once a day if you're really trying to educate people. Like the strategy that I had there for a really long time was, okay, I'm just going to do a lot of YouTube content and then I'm going to send that out in an email. And if they watch it, great. If they don't, great. Like it was purely no sales, just check it out. And then I slowly over time started to introduce sales pitches like, hey, I got my creativity course. Hey, I got my marketing course. Hey, there's this Photoshop and design course. Hey, we're doing a live webinar that's free every Wednesday. But it wasn't like the central point. So I wanted to really nurture the people that were following me first with a lot of data, whether or not they watched it, whether or not even if they didn't like it, but they were still receiving it. I just was like, I'm going to be so open and transparent with you and value driven on this that I'm just going to share it. And then I will do that for so long that at one point now I have the right to ask you to buy something. You know what I mean? Like if I can't physically talk to you on the phone to build that rapport, I'm going to do it in a different way. And then I'm going to ask you to buy. So it's again, strategy. It's what's the point? Are we trying to sell an album? Good. Did you nurture them all the way up to the point of the release of the album? Did you show them the journey all the way up to the release of that album? Are you playing your first big show at this big, venue or something? Good. Did you nurture everybody up to that point to support you? Like what have you been doing up to that point? It's not just turn it on, pay attention, buy, or turn it on, pay attention, show up. It doesn't work. You gotta bring them up along the line. And honestly, musicians I think they have a really cool experience because you guys meet up and then it's like, dude, what are we going to do? Dude, riff this out for the next 20 minutes. Dude, Johnny just banged this out for like 25 minutes. He didn't even know what he was doing. He just made it up and just did 3 different notes over and over again. But it was so cool. Like that's the kind of stuff that if I was subscribed to a band, that's what I'd want to see from the band. Because when I like a band or I like music, I want to try to get everything I can from that individual. I want to know how they're making stuff. I want to know what that creative process is like. I want to know what else they like outside of that. Maybe they're like a hardcore, this guy, or maybe they're a pop singer, but they like to study astrophysics. I don't know. That would be interesting to me. I'd be like, what is this? I use astrophysics because that's me. Like I majored in college in astrophysics and English, and then I dropped out. Go figure. Now I run an ad agency. But it was just like, well, that's random, okay, cool. All right. No problem. Advertiser likes astrophysics. Okay, great. Like that's the kind of stuff people like. And I used to think people wouldn't like that about me. But then I realized people actually thought that was kind of interesting. Like, well, tell me about that. Then that would lead to more conversations. But, that's a nurturing point. It's a nurturing point that somebody's like, oh, that's new. I would have never. Okay, interesting. And they become more interested.
Yeah. Again, it comes back to that point of too much buy and too much nurture, and you got to find that perfect
I
point.
usually do 90. I probably go about 90-10 on that. 90% nurture, and then 10%. But that 10%, when I do it, it's pretty strong. Like it's very, very aggressive. But that 90% is very much like, okay, this is good.
Yeah, no, I get it. Guy, do you have any questions that you want to jump in on? Because we haven't let you talk for the last 5-10 minutes, rather.
It's okay. I was like without power for a second.
No worries.
About like the mailing list. So would you say that would be extremely important for bands to get on mailing lists?
Yeah. Like, why not? Like what? Like you got to treat the band like a business, man. And you know, again, that's coming out of that. I'm the best artist on earth. And it's like, yes, you are, but there's another piece you have to know. And, you know, adding that into your arsenal just makes you a better artist. It just makes you that much better because you care about that stuff, you know? So if you can create that, because I mean, really, if you, the big guys that are out there, they have a whole ecosystem, you know, they create this whole ecosystem around them because of their music and what they do. And it's like a culture thing. And then you could fast track that with something like this, you know what I mean? And then keep it going after the fact.
So back to a different subject here. We only got about 10 minutes left, I think. I just looked at the time. But do you have any recommendations for how people could learn how to sell and how to market themselves other than just your courses? Because we know we got your courses. We know about those.
Yeah, I mean, if you're really wanting to learn how to sell, there's a book called Big League Sales. It's a really good book. Definitely check that out. There's a sales guy, Grant Cardone. He's got good stuff. I mean, that's where I trained. That's where I started. That's where I learned. I was an artist. Okay. I didn't do sales. I was like, I am, you know, art, create. But there was a need to just understand sales and understand the mechanics of that. And so there's a good jumping point from that point and then transitioning into an artist's viewpoint that I think is good. But yeah, those are really the resources that I would go with. Like just honestly, it doesn't matter where you get it from. It's just get some information about sales. Just learn the process, how to do it, you know, because once you understand the mechanics of sales, you could go into any industry and sell. Okay. You could go in any space and sell. As an artist, you need to know how to do that. You need to know a little bit about marketing. You need to know a little bit about these platforms because it's just going to give you an edge, especially if it's a competitive space. It's very competitive.
Yeah. The problem is there's so many different sales trainers and sales books out there. It's always hard for people to know, you know, what's the right thing. Cause some of the stuff is out of date. As you know, some of it was written in like 1950 and stuff, and people are still passing it off. Right. So yeah, it's hard to say sometimes, but, Ali, I'm going to let you go now.
Thanks, Curtis.
You're welcome.
I'm like, you're acting like I was asking to ask a question.
Well, I thought you were. I thought that was I want to ask a question. Look, I'm sorry.
I'm going to let you go now. Go.
But I think that was a pretty good summary, honestly, and it's a lot of good information for bands. So, and giving them, I guess one question would be like, if you could pick like 3 books for someone to read that's trying to learn about sales, what would they be?
Ooh,
that's a good question. Yeah. So definitely Big League Sales for sure. There's another book that's actually really good that changed my whole viewpoint on marketing, but it applies to sales. And it's called Guerrilla Marketing. It's really, really like changed my viewpoint, especially today. Like one of the things that I'll just share with you that changed my viewpoint was the use of competition to propel yourself, but not in the sense of like being competitive with somebody, but finding these areas where the competition's actually a little bit weaker and then accelerating on that, or knowing when you need to kind of like not go pick that fight and go on the outside of it and kind of circumvent the whole thing, or how to just kind of control your position. And I thought about that from a sales viewpoint as well. And I thought that was really good. Like that really changed my viewpoint on that, because it was just like, wow, I would have never thought about it like this. And it works. It works. So definitely that one, definitely Big League Sales. And I think, definitely Sell or Be Sold, I think is great. Just gives you some really preliminary data on how to sell, the process of sales, how to do it. It's very good as an introductory level sales course for sure, or book to really read.
Cool. I have one more question I just realized.
Ask away, man. I'm good.
So what about for marketing books or courses?
Well, I mean, you can take my marketing course if you want. I mean, that's probably the best way to do it, is just understand my whole logic and ecosystem. That one's pretty good. Cool. I know Russell Brunson has some stuff. And then I think that book I told you about, Guerrilla Marketing, that's the one. I would definitely check that out. It's cool. If you like to read, I'm sure you can get it as an audio program, but Guerrilla Marketing is really good. Check it out.
Cool.
I have a question about that, actually, kind of important, because sometimes bands can be a little socially awkward sometimes and not understand when they're going too far. So this guerrilla marketing thing, particularly the one point that you brought up, I would be worried that bands might be like, well, like comparing themselves to other bands. Bands aren't like brands, like, especially within the metal community, they're connected. These bands will see what you have to say. If they're a bigger band than you, it might cause beef, it might cause problems, drama in the scene. So
I'm not saying like that's a good point to clarify. It's not about going out and actually like attacking and like being rude and being obnoxious. It's more about for your own self of like an analysis point of, oh, we could improve this area, or maybe we could do this more. You don't have to go out and like start stabbing people and be like, dude, like picking fights and all that. This is more about just for you to help you find your position in that space in the marketplace and know what to do with it. That's really what I was trying to say. But that was good that you brought it up, because I could see how that could be misconstrued for sure.
Yeah, so it's not something that you necessarily put in your messaging. It's just something
No. It's something more about you. It would help you. It would help you evolve your messaging. It would help you evolve. Well, nobody's talked about this. Maybe we can go into this area that nobody else goes into. That kind of a thing. Like that's how I would approach it. You want to look for things that are a little bit outside of where people haven't gone yet. Who's not talking about that? In social media marketing, I do that all the time. I'm like, where hasn't anybody gone yet? And that's what I really try to do.
Cool. Gaia, do you have any final questions for Robert?
No.
Cool. Aaliyah, do you got any final questions for Robert?
I think that wraps things up pretty nicely.
Cool. Do you have any questions for us, Robert, before we end off?
No, I'm good, man. You guys just keep doing stuff like this and helping people out. I mean, I think it's great, and people need this. They need to know different viewpoints and perspectives that you would never think could help them. So I think it's great. Keep up the great work.
Well, thank you very much. And with that, Aaliyah will give us the outro.
Yeah, and what I have to say is, everybody, until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.